Well, hello folks, here we are again with another fantastic session here at BVE 2015. We're now going to be talking about cloud-based editing with the guys from Forscene, and of course, editor and trainer extraordinaire, Sir Larry Jordan. We'll call you Sir Larry Jordan now that you're in London. I think it's about time you were given the knighthood. Jason, tell us a bit about Forscene.
Right, so Forscene's been in the market since 2004, so when you talk about cloud-based post-production, everybody thinks it's relatively new, 2, 3, maybe 4 years old. We launched it at IBC 2004, had our first productions 2005 with RTV. At that time, we launched it as a review system, so basically being able to view your content anywhere through a standard web browser on a very, very modest internet connection around about a meg. Since then, we've evolved the platform quite significantly into a logging. Firstly, a logging system, being able to take hundreds and thousands of hours worth of content and being able to log, make it searchable, and then the natural progression was to be able to then cut that content down. So it was just being able to then just condense it and then pass it off back to a traditional edit suite like an Avid and let them continue the edit process there. But in the last 2 or 3 years, we've kind of evolved into how much more of the offline edit piece can we take on within a cloud environment, because our clients are driving us that way. It's not necessarily us as a technology pushing it that way, it's people coming to us. So at the end of last year, we had 127 productions in the UK using Forscene, and that's everything from big brand names like The Voice, Gold Rush, Gogglebox, where the shooting ratios are just astronomical. Shooting ratios are really big. They need loggers to be able to just make everything searchable. In that environment and those kind of productions, about using Forscene to be able to take an edit producer, being able to take content, whittle it down, and pass it back to a traditional offline editor within an Avid or Final Cut Pro or something like that, and being able to work with a managed amount of content. That's often a collaborative edit process where the edit producer is sitting in an edit suite next to the editor. Why waste your time in searching for content as an editor? You can then just ask the edit producer, oh, we're looking for this cutaway, can I carry on just working here? You go and find it. Everything's searchable, they go and find it, say, that's the clip that we're looking for. Or the edit producer's cutting ahead, which is generally what we have, and creating the piece of the story that they kind of conceptualize, taking it back, giving the EDL back to the offline editor, and they carry on. That's the one part of what we do in long-form television. We also have quite an extensive part in sport, and in sport, it's very, very different. In sport, with digital rights being separated from traditional broadcast rights, since we did the London Olympics, we worked with NBC, and the entire highlights factory for NBC in 30 Rock in New York was Forscene. So all the content, 70-odd channels, was ingested into a cloud-based system. They had 50 editors sitting in 30 Rock in New York. They could all work within a cloud-based tool and publish highlights packages really, really quickly out to mobile and web distribution. Since then, we've worked with our partners Delta Tray, and we won our 3rd season of European Tour. European Tour used to use a traditional NLE system out in the field, cutting on location. That no longer happens anymore. It all gets downloaded off satellite, ingested into the cloud, and you've basically got editors that are creating full highlights packages, which includes voiceover, graphics, effects, alpha channel overlays, all within a single platform, and having it reviewed within the same platform and distributing it to a CDN or out to mobile and web distribution platforms.
So Neil, this began life as a log and transfer tool, didn't it, really? A kind of viewing tool. It's now evolving into a full-blown edit platform, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the application as it is now, I would compare it maybe to Final Cut Pro from maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So it's a good basic editing system. It allows you to do all of the things that you as an editor need to do to tell your story. You've got trimming, you've got L cuts, J cuts, and it supports multiple keyboard shortcuts. So if you're used to working on Final Cut or on Avid, you can import the shortcut map for that editor, and you can work with the system. The only difference, of course, is that all your media is in the cloud. So you can access it from anywhere. You can be in your office, but equally you can be at home, You can be sitting on a railway platform with your tablet. You can be viewing material, you can be marking up, logging, making selections, thinking about what you're going to do. One of the big problems, I think, over the last few years is the way workflows have changed. It used to be that as an editor, if people were shooting on tape, you'd get the tape, you'd have the chance to digitize it, you'd actually have a chance to get to know the material before you had to dive in and do the editing. Now it's much more likely that you're handed a memory card or a disk, and you've got a very short amount of time to be able to put that edit together. So you don't have time to get to know the material. So unless you're going to spend 24 hours a day locked in your edit suite, you're not going to be able to do it. But Forscene gives you the ability to access your material from wherever you are, and it's also great for collaboration. I mean, obviously, you as an editor, you're working, but you've got your producer, your director. Depending on the size of the team, there might be other editors or loggers and other people working on the project. Forscene means that wherever they are, they can all access the material, they can all feed back into the same project, and you can all see, you can chat online as part of the application, and then you can also, when you finish a cut and you think, okay, I want people to look at this and give me their feedback, I can drop that onto a tasks button and I can say, right, send this to these 4 people, and then that'll pop up on their interface and say, Neil's done this cut, take a look at it, let us know what you think, and they can accept it or reject it, or they can add comments. So it's a really great way of working that doesn't tie you to the edit suite.
Larry, as someone who's spent a great portion of your career focused on editing and of course seen a great number of changes in technology and platforms, what's your thoughts on this style of working? What kind of questions would you have for these guys based on what you've heard?
The challenge that I've got with cloud-based editing is that it's in the cloud. There's security issues in terms of how we keep it secure, but there's also access issues. If I've got 2 or 3 terabytes of media, how do I upload that to the cloud in something that's not going to take more than a week? Second issue is this sounds a lot like Adobe Anywhere, which is also cloud-based editing, and the Adobe Anywhere software is really inexpensive. But a server, the drive Adobe Anywhere, is almost $100,000. So 1, it seems like I've got to spend a lot of money for high-speed internet connectivity. 2, I've got to spend a lot of money for a high-speed server. And 3, I've got to worry about security, especially for video files that can't be released to the public. So those are the first 3 concerns that I've got about how this works.
Well, I think from the from the NGS point of view, for one, we are transcoding your original source on location. We are not uploading your original source into the cloud. So something like a big post house like Envy, where we do between 10 and 15 productions a month, and they're shooting hundreds of hours of content on very high volume shows. We use about 8-9 megs of upload bandwidth with them at any given time, and we are transcoding hundreds of hours of worth of material.
So we're working with proxy files off yours.
We work on proxy files. So we ingest, we transcode everything on location, we upload only the proxy files, so it's not your original source. Your original source still resides on your edit share, your SAN, your ISIS. We transcode via watch folders, it's an automated process. Anytime you put new content into a workspace, it's transcoded, uploaded, and it becomes accessed. We can also present that. We have ways of presenting so that the way that you see it within your Avid, when you come into Forscene, it's duplicated. We can do it on disk label, real name, so the organization of your material is all automated as well. So I think from the thing about connectivity, we've done shows in Bangkok. We did a show for Kyo Films, 7 cameras shooting on location in Bangkok airport, post-production teams all in London. They take a lacy drive, put it into the back of a Forscene box that is on location. We transcode the material there, put it up the next day. Edit producers can go in. They're not on location. They can see everything. They can see anything. They can start logging everything. They can actually start giving feedback immediately to location. It's a reality show. They want to be able to say, hey guys, that's a really bad storyline. Let's stop shooting down that storyline. We're on our 4th season of Gold Rush, all shot in Alaska, all posted in London. The dailies come over every single day. They only ship back the original source every 3 weeks, and then they ingest the original source back to the Avid. We link back to the original source once they've done a cut within Forscene. So it's just shortening that gap between I'm shooting and I want to see everything and I want to start working on anything, I want to prep everything, and it's just tightening that process up. When it comes to security, it's our own proprietary codec. You can only play Forscene, you can only play the content in the Forscene platform. We're not using MPEG, we're not using anything else. So you actually have to get in. It's as secure as a password-driven system is going to be. It doesn't stop you giving your password to somebody else and they accessing it, but is it as safe as somebody having a tape lying on a production runner's desk or a production person's desk that can be whipped up and go and put somewhere else? I think the whole cloud security thing is a bit unfair, and I think there's been a bit of a bad rap given to people with cloud-based solutions. It doesn't stop somebody putting a camera and filming the screen, but it doesn't stop somebody doing that in an edit suite either. So I think it's as secure as any other system, and in effect, it's probably more secure. We create 3 backups of every content that's put into the cloud, stored in 3 separate data centers. So if we lose one, we've got another 2 copies. Plus, we are not dealing with your original source. We can't lose your original source. You sitting with your original source. Larry, you'll have to remind me what your third concern was.
We had uplink bandwidth, which you solve by doing proxies.
Yes.
We haven't talked about the cost of the server, and as I understand it, we also have to use the Forscene editing software.
Yes, that's
which means that if we're used to Premiere, or we're used to Avid, or we're used to Final Cut, we now have to learn a new piece of software to cut. Then the last question, which I didn't ask before, is how do we get files from Forscene back into our finished product, because we're still editing proxies with you. We need to do a finish and color grade with the originals.
Yes.
I can
So
take that one.
cost
Yeah, do you want to take that one? Then I'll address the servers and that.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of actually editing in Forscene, as I said, you can load up with the same keyboard shortcuts. So if you're used to working in Premiere or Final Cut or Avid.
You're not saying you're feature equivalent to Avid or feature equivalent to Final Cut.
No, it's you've got the ability to do your offline. You've got the ability to cut together picture and sound.
So would I be doing a selects with you, or how far a fine cut can I get?
I think in terms of the edit, you can take it down to the sort of good offline, and then you can take it into your Avid or your Premiere or Final Cut to do your polishing, or take it into Resolve to grade it, add graphics or captions and things at a higher level than you can in Forscene. But for a lot of simple projects, you could actually take the final output from Forscene and just conform that, or drag and drop that and publish it directly to YouTube, conformed from the original masters, and that would be absolutely fine. You've got basic color correction, you've got closed caption support, you've got titling, you've got pan and crop and flip. So, I mean, it really depends on how complex your edit is and how far you want to go in Forscene before you then take it on into another project.
So is this the kind of thing where you could have edit producers, in reality, for example, sub-clipping and creating very loose, rough stories that then gets handed over and exported out of Forscene to an NLE like Larry's mentioned, that the editor then crafts into the final program, and then you relink to you just conform to your original files?
Well, you see, there's 2 parts. There's the part there where we've been in the UK because we started off as a review and a logging system, so a lot of clients still recognize us as that. And we've gone through we're trying to go through an evolution process with our own clients right now, moving them from knowing the product to that, to using it as an edit tool. Where we've gone directly in, for example, we have an office in Toronto now, where we've gone directly in fresh last year as Forscene is a story edit tool. We've got story edit clients right now. So we've got their lovely term, a predator, working where it's not the traditional in the UK, you normally got the edit producer with the editor. You got that rolled into one. We have projects right now in Toronto where we've been used as the story edit tool. And then from there, it's going off to a post house, because post house is different. You've got offliners sitting at the production company, and post houses are finishing. The production companies are saying, well, we want to use this because we don't want to expand, we don't want more rooms, we don't want to bricks and mortar, and all those kind of things are costing us a lot of money. Can we just use a standard web browser and run it on a laptop? But in that kind of environment, what Neil is saying, we don't see ourselves being an online editor. You will never do your proper color grade, vector scopes, waveform monitors, A-grade monitors. You're working on a proxy and you're working on a laptop screen. You know, how are you going to do your color grade like that?
And just to touch on the difference between sort of broadcast editing and sports editing, what are the differences there?
Well, I mean, sports is all about fast, for us, it's all about fast turnaround. So there, you're not having to grade anything, it's coming out of a stadium. All your cameras are matched, all your cameras are set up. It's about being able to take a half-hour game and or the first half of a game and make a 3-minute highlight package from that. And that is all about something that is just very, very quick. It's maybe collaborative because you need to be able to ask other people for input into that, but it's being able to mark stuff up and just say, that's the goal, that's the foul, that's this, that's that. And often that's generated by play-by-play metadata that you're getting off the system. But it's very, very punchy, and it's about who can be out there first, because often they're running advertising against it. So who can get out to the platform first, who can generate revenue out of those sort of things. But it's simplistic. I have my graphics elements already preloaded, because what is it? It's a wipe. It's an alpha channel wipe, it's a strap line, you need to put up somebody's name, it's that kind of stuff. It's not something that you're going to spend a huge amount of time on. It's how fast can I get volume. And for example, European Tour, their comments to us on what they used to get between, say, maybe 10 or 15 minutes worth of highlights on entire day's play, they are doing 10 times that on this platform, because you're not having to ingest it into a third party, wait for it to ingest. We ingest and you can cut from the growing file. So we're about 3 seconds behind the broadcast feed. So you can just be cutting straight out of that as it comes in. And then what we do is we create a mezzanine, we hold the mezzanine file. As you publish, you just drag it on, we conform it back on the server, and we publish it to wherever you want to go.
You know, a lot of what I do in my day job is producing in independent corporates. As a producer, I can see the value of this, but I can also sense some natural apprehension from my craft editor. How are you finding the transition with the producers saying we want to do this because it's efficient, and how that integration with craft editors? Has it been a rocky road? Has it been tricky? Because these guys work in different NLE platforms like Final Cut or Avid or Adobe, and there are so many finessing tools in those platforms that to say that it's a fully functioning editor, you can do shortkeys. There's of course a lot more to it than that. I mean, how have you found integrating this software with traditional editors?
I think it works really well, because I mean, the thing is that editing, whatever tool it is you're using to do that, is still a craft, and it's about choosing the pictures and the sound and putting them together in the right sequence, and trimming those cuts, making those cuts work. Exactly right. A frame either way can make the difference between a cut working or not working as well. And Forscene has all of that capability. You can rock and roll, you've got JKL, you can trim either side, it's all very mouse and keyboard driven. Obviously then, to finish and to apply that final layer of polish to your program before it goes to broadcast, you want to take it into something to do the finishing. But in terms of, from the editor's point of view, having the ability to access the material from anywhere, having the ability to be fed in, pre-cut sequences, selects that have been logged and sorted, making my life easier to find the shot that I want to find, to put into this sequence to tell my story. I think it works really well. And most of the editors that I've seen who've come from Avid or Final Cut, when they sit down and look at Forscene, as soon as they start playing with it, it's like, oh, okay, I understand this. This does what I expect.
Well, the guys on Kit Plus here are using Forscene right now. I mean, they're loading stuff up to the cloud. They've got people cutting. I mean, it seems like a terrific system, and it seems to work. It seems kind of crazily easy. Larry, do you have any closing thoughts?
You hadn't mentioned the cost of the server.
Yes. So, I mean, we use for a traditional broadcast workflow where you need a server on premise, because we don't always need a server on premise. A lot of the sports workflows, we're taking in streams. So you might be taking a stream from Microsoft Azure, it's already in the cloud. We ingest it straight from the cloud, we integrate with Amazon EC2, whatever that might be. So we are a software company. If we didn't have to have hardware, we wouldn't have hardware at all. That's not our business. We're not in the business of selling our clients hardware. Right now, it's a necessary evil, but we sell standard off-the-shelf IT equipment. So to be able to get going on Forscene as an entry-level post-production company or production company, you're looking at about 2.5 grand worth of kit. 2.5, 3 grand worth of kit, as in pounds. So actually in broadcast terms, it's relatively cheap to get yourself going. And that will transcode numerous files, 100, 200 hours worth of content in a given day. So for us, it's not about the hardware. And I think just a last thing from adding on to what Neil was saying is that it's been quite an evolution because some people are very, very fixed. And I come from also renting cameras in the 90s and so forth, and I was a cameraman. If I had a Sony camera and an Ikigami came out and it might be fantastic, but it was like, I know where all the buttons are. Don't give me an Ikigami camera. I don't want to do that. And what we've done is we relaunched our new interface at the end of last year based on our client feedback saying, but actually this looks very different to every other NLE. And what you go and have a look at what Forscene looked like and what Forscene looks like now, I think it looks significantly different. It looks different, it's more familiar. Yes, there is functionality that we're either missing or there's a lot of functionality that we have that other people don't have as well. But it does look different, but it doesn't look so different that an editor just goes, initial shock factor. That we had in the beginning, the initial shock factor. We are now over that, and people are then willing to go, let me use it, and actually, okay, this ain't so bad.
Well guys, I want to cut you short there because we're out of time. I think this is an absolutely fascinating discussion. I'm sure it will continue off camera. Neil, Jason, Larry, thank you all very much.